The sun was rising over Bisbee, Arizona. It was July 12, 1917. Then the silence broke. Gunshots. Boots on gravel. Screams in the dark. Over 1,000 men were pulled from their homes, beaten, and forced at gunpoint into boxcars. Their crime? They had joined the strike. For fair wages and safer mines. Sheriffs didn't protect them. They led the charge. With rifles drawn, they called it patriotism. And they dumped the workers in the desert, no water, no food, no way back. Many vanished. The town stayed quiet. The government looked away. This was not war. This was not legal. It was a real American deportation. And it's one of the darkest stories you've never heard. Subscribe now to @Unbelievable True Story. Because the truth we uncover might change what you think about justice. 4 a.m., a quiet mining town in the Mule Mountains. Bisbee was still asleep. The sky was dark. A faint desert breeze moved the dust in the empty streets. Children were still dreaming. The bakery was still closed. The only sound was the soft hum of a faraway train. Then it came. Boots. Lots of boots. Moving fast. Hard heels on wooden porches. Rifles tapping against thighs. Men in badges. Men in mining hats. Men with masks. 1,200 men. They called themselves citizen deputies. But they weren't the law. They were a mob. Organized. Armed. Paid. They moved through the homes one by one. They kicked in doors. Pulled out fathers. Dragged sleeping men into the street. Juan Morales. Sam Rodriguez. John Wilburn. Peter Rados. Miners. Fathers. Immigrants. Serbian. Mexican. Irish. Greek. They weren't criminals. They were strikers. Men who wanted better pay, safer shafts, and clean drinking water underground. They had joined the Industrial Workers of the World, IWW, also known as the Wobblies. And that made them dangerous, in the eyes of the mine owners. June 26, 1917. Phelps Dodge Copper Mine, Bisbee. A letter was delivered. It demanded equal pay for Mexican and white workers, safer working conditions, an end to child labor. No more blasting while men were in the mine. The mining company laughed. Then the workers walked out. More than 1,000 miners left their posts. It wasn't violent. No one was hurt. They held peaceful signs in front of the mine. But to the owners, it felt like rebellion. And rebellion had to be crushed. July 12, 1917. 5 a.m. Trucks lined the streets. Horseback riders surrounded the hills. Telephone lines were cut. No escape. The citizen deputies wore white armbands. They carried lists, names of workers who had joined the strike or were suspected of union ties. They forced over 1,200 men into the streets. Some were still in their underwear. Others had blood on their faces. All were confused. Terrified. They were marched, block by block, to the train yard. No charges. No trials. No court. Only guns. The townspeople watched from behind curtains. Some wept. Some turned away. Others cheered. In the crowd stood Sheriff Harry Wheeler. His arms were crossed. His boots were clean. He had helped organize it all. He called the strikers radicals and traitors, said they were German agents in disguise. He told the newspapers, "We are protecting America." But there were no Germans. Just men asking for clean air. 6:45 a.m. Bisbee train yard. The train hissed. The sun was rising. The heat was already burning the tracks. Boxcars with open doors waited. The miners were forced inside. Sardine packed. No food. No water. No shade. The train moved. It didn't stop until it reached the middle of the desert. New Mexico. Hermanas, New Mexico. July 12, 1917. 1:30 p.m. It was over 100 degrees. The train screeched. The doors were thrown open. A voice shouted, "Out! All of you! Now! No shelter! No people! No plan! Just endless sand and sky!" The miners were dumped, over 200 miles from home, and left to die. Walter Douglas, Vice President, Phelps Dodge Corporation. He had sent a private telegram. "Remove all undesirables. Take care of it quietly." He meant it. Douglas believed in profit, not people. He thought the strike would scare investors. So, he made a call. To the sheriff. To other copper companies. To businessmen. Within 48 hours, they created a secret army. And Bisbee turned into a trap. While the men suffered in the desert. Back in Bisbee, the newspapers spun a story. Headlines said, "Strike broken by brave citizens. Foreign agitators removed from town. Peace returns to Bisbee." But there was no peace. Only silence. And missing husbands. Missing sons. Missing justice. Maria Morales, age 29, wife of deported miner Juan Morales. She ran to the train station when she heard the noise. She saw the empty streets. The blood on the sidewalk. The empty crib where her baby once slept. She shouted her husband's name. No one answered. She was told to be quiet. But she never was again. This is a real story. Every fact you hear is public. You can check it yourself. If real-life mysteries leave you breathless, subscribe now to @Unbelievable True Story. Because the next truth we uncover might hit even closer to home. Hermanas, New Mexico. July 12, 1917. 2 p.m. The desert was empty. No houses. No water wells. Just dry wind, dust, and heat. The miners stood there, hundreds of them. Some limped. Some cried. Some collapsed. A man named Peter Rados took off his shirt and waved it for shade. Another, Sam Rodriguez, tied a rag around his burned feet. The train that brought them? It was gone. 3:15 p.m. A boy ran from a distant ranch. He told the foreman, "There's people out by the tracks. A lot of them. They look sick." The sheriff in New Mexico arrived, shocked. He asked, "Who sent them here?" No one could answer. They had no food, no medicine, no plan. And Bisbee wasn't coming back. July 13, 1917. 7 a.m. A small Red Cross team set up tents. They brought bread, water, and bandages. Some men were too weak to move. They'd gone over 16 hours without anything. A nurse, Eleanor Keating, wrote in her journal. Many were sunburned to the bone. Their eyes swollen shut. They kept asking, "Why us?" But no one had an answer. July 14, 1917. Washington, D.C. Word reached the White House. President Woodrow Wilson was shocked. He ordered a federal investigation. But behind closed doors, his advisors said, "It's wartime. We can't have labor trouble." The miners were not the priority. America was fighting World War I. Copper was needed for bullets, wires, and tanks. The deportation was seen as a necessary sacrifice. Weeks passed. Many of the deported couldn't find their families. They were labeled undesirables. No town would hire them. No train would take them in. They were blacklisted, their names shared across mining towns. A man named Anton Velez tried to return to Arizona. At the border, he was stopped. The guard looked at his papers and said, You're on the list. You go back. Or you disappear. September 1917. Arizona and Washington, D.C. Lawyers filed lawsuits. Dozens of families demanded answers. Congress launched a hearing. The federal report said the deportation was illegal. No law allowed it. But still, no one was arrested. No one was charged. No one paid a fine. The mining companies blamed the sheriff. The sheriff blamed the companies. And everyone walked away. Phelps Dodge Corporation, stronger than ever. Their profits soared. The strike was broken. The copper flowed again. They printed ads saying, "Patriotism before profit." But behind the posters, they had destroyed over 1,000 lives. Families were broken. Homes abandoned. And no one was held responsible. Diego Morales, age 6, in 1917, Los Angeles, 1971, interview. As an old man, Diego recalled, "They took my papa. I never saw him again. Mama never smiled after that." He kept a photograph, torn and faded, of his father holding a pickaxe. "This is all I have." For years, no history book told this story. No plaque was built. No film was made. The word Bisbee faded into dust. Only the desert remembered. And the descendants, who carried the silence. 2018. Film, Bisbee 17 by Robert Greene. A documentary brought the story back. Locals reenacted the deportation on its 100th anniversary. Some cried. Some refused. One man, whose grandfather helped with the roundup, said, "It's hard to accept. But we have to. It happened. And we have to say it out loud. This is not fiction. Every detail is part of a real case that you can verify yourself." (1920s–1930s) Arizona mining towns. The mines grew quieter. Some copper veins dried up. Others were replaced by machines. But the names of the deported men vanished. No memorials. No markers. No letters returned. It was as if they'd been erased from American soil. Anton Velez worked under a fake name in Nevada. Peter Rados changed his identity and never told his children the truth. They had survived. But at a cost. Bisbee, Arizona. Present day. Tourists walk through Main Street. Shops sell postcards and cowboy hats. Signs say Old West charm and Coppertown glory. But no one talks about July 12, 1917. No statue. No museum wing. Only a few faded newspaper clippings. Locked in a dusty file cabinet. Even longtime residents admit. They told us not to talk about it. Each year, the town holds a fun run. It's called the Bisbee 1000, a race up and down the town's stairs and streets. Thousands join. They smile for pictures. But they pass the very same steps. Where men were dragged from their homes. Where workers begged not to be taken. Most runners never know. Because the town never told them. Rachel Delgado, age 47, Tucson, Arizona, 2005. Rachel found a shoebox in her grandmother's attic. Inside, a black and white photo of a man in mining gear. A folded paper with Bisbee Deportation, July 1917 written in pencil. A letter in Spanish, never sent. It read, "Mi amor, they took me on a train. I don't know where I am. Tell our son I love him. Tell him to be brave. I will try to come back." Rachel cried for an hour. She had never heard of a Bisbee deportation before. 2010s. Local historians begin restoring the records. Some young teachers and journalists in Arizona asked, "Why don't we teach this?" They dug through court records, company logs, and personal letters. They built lists of names. They interviewed descendants. They gave the deported men back their voices. And one teacher said, "History isn't just what we remember. It's also what we choose to forget." Manuel Vasquez, age 102, interviewed in 1992, El Paso, Texas. Manuel was only 7 when his father was taken. He remembered hiding under the kitchen table. He heard boots. His father's screams. The sound of doors slamming. He said, "My mother told me not to cry. She said they would come for us if I made noise." He never saw his father again. July 12, 2017. 100-year commemoration in Bisbee. A symbolic train arrived at the old yard. Actors, dressed as miners, stood silently as people watched. Some locals wept. Others left early. A plaque was unveiled. It read, "To those who were taken, may your stories never be buried again." After a century, some questions remain. Who are the shadow men funding the roundup? Why did the federal government refuse to intervene? How many men died in the desert, and where are they buried? No one knows all the answers. But the scars remain. In dusty letters. In old eyes. In whispered memories passed down like secrets. An old man, Carlos Morales, walks down Tombstone Canyon. He's 89. His grandfather was one of the deported. He touches the bricks of a quiet building. He stands where the train once left. He whispers, "Abuelo, I remember you." Even if they tried to make us forget, some say you can still hear it. Late at night, when the wind blows hard through the canyon, the low hum of a train, the faint echo of boots, the cries of men who disappeared without justice, the desert remembers. Have you heard this story before? What do you think truly happened that night? Why was no one held responsible? If you're drawn to real stories that stay with you, subscribe now to @Unbelievable True Story. Because every week, we reveal the darkest truths hidden in plain sight. Bisbee, Arizona. 1925. The sun rose over the Mule Mountains like it always did. But something had changed in Bisbee. The town was divided. Not by fences. Not by signs. But by silence. Neighbors no longer trusted neighbors. Some had joined the deportation squads. Others had lost family in the roundup. People crossed the street to avoid eye contact. Some families never spoke about July 12th again. One shopkeeper told his son, "If you want to survive in this town, don't ask questions." Maria Reyes, Henry Collins, Elena Velez. Born, 1910s-1920s. They grew up fatherless. Maria's father was never seen again. Henry's mother worked 2 jobs after his father was deported. Elena wore a necklace made from copper wire, her father's last gift before the raid. At school, they were bullied. Labeled as children of agitators. Told to sit in the back. Forgotten by the town that took their families away. And yet, they survived. Phelps Dodge. 1920s-1930s. Profits soared. Copper prices rose with the war effort and the electric boom. The mines were busy again, without unions. Without strikes. Without questions. The company ran Bisbee like a king runs a castle. They paid for roads. For schools. For the sheriff's office. But under it all, they built their empire on silence. And the memory of 1,200 lost voices. Daniel Armenta. 1938. Age, 11. Bisbee attic. While helping his grandmother clean the attic, Daniel opened a locked trunk. Inside he found a Union badge with blood on the strap. A photograph of a man holding a sign, IWW, we want safety. A small pocket watch stopped at 4:17 a.m. His grandmother froze. She whispered, "That was your grandfather's. Don't let anyone see it." Daniel never told a soul. Until 70 years later. 1940s. Washington, D.C. World War II began. Attention turned away from the past. A senator from Arizona tried to reopen the Bisbee investigation. His report was shelved. Never published. One aide said, "It's too old. No one cares anymore." In private, some feared lawsuits, land claims, pension demands. Admitting the truth meant opening a door they wanted locked forever. 1953. Train logs go missing. An archivist searching for records on the Bisbee train found nothing. No manifests. No conductor's logs. No travel documents. The entire paper trail. Gone. A journalist investigating the case wrote, "It's as if the train never existed. But it did. We have the stories. The scars. The bones. The desert remembers." Hermanas, New Mexico. 1965. A young boy stumbled upon a metal tag in the sand. It had a name, Luis R. Esquivel. And a number, 741. His father reported it to the county office. But no one came. Years later, it was confirmed, Luis Esquivel was among the deported. He never returned. His body was never found. But that tag. It was proof. Proof that the desert still held their stories. This is a real story. Every fact you hear is public. You can check it yourself. If real-life mysteries leave you breathless, subscribe now to @Unbelievable True Story. Because the next truth we uncover might hit even closer to home. 1960s. Bisbee mines. A new wave of miners, sons and grandsons of the deported, formed a union again. But this time, they knew the risks. They whispered in bunkhouses, passed notes in copper carts, met in secret under the moonlight. And one said, "We do this not just for us, but for the ones they took in 1917. The memory of the deportation had become a fire, quiet, but burning. Javier Gutierrez. Age, 95. Interview year, 1982. One of the last survivors gave a rare interview. They came with guns. They said we were traitors. We were just trying to breathe. They took me in the dark. My son was 5. He cried for me at the station. I never saw him again." Tears ran down his weathered face. He showed the interviewer a piece of cloth. "My wife tore this from her dress and gave it to me as I left. I kept it all my life." Present day. A Bisbee couple renovating their old home found something in the walls. Letters. All addressed to Juan Morales, a deported minor. One read, "I don't know if you're dead or just gone. I still set your place at the table. Our daughter says your name in her sleep." The couple donated the letters to the local museum. The exhibit now reads, "We will not forget." March 9, 2006. Arizona. It had been nearly 90 years. Then Arizona Daily Star ran a front-page headline, "The Forgotten Deportation, Bisbee's Darkest Day Returns to Light." Suddenly, the silence cracked. People called in. Some brought in heirlooms. Others shared stories they were told never to repeat. One woman arrived with a miner's helmet. Carved inside, July 12, 1917. "I still breathe." Mary Sol Ortega. High school teacher. Tucson, Arizona. Mary Sol was preparing a lesson on labor history. She searched her last name, curious if any of her ancestors were involved. She found court records, Ortega, Francisco, IWW miner, deported July 12, 1917. She had never heard his name before. Her family had buried the memory. That night, she cried. My grandfather was lost to time. But now, I teach his name in every class. July 12, 2017. St. Patrick's Church, Bisbee. At exactly 2 a.m., the time the men were taken, the church bell rang 1,200 times. One for every deported worker. People gathered in silence. Some prayed. Some stood with signs. Others wept quietly. A priest read aloud the names of the known men, half Spanish, half English. The list took almost 2 hours. But no one left. In 2018, a local artist proposed a memorial. A copper statue of a miner and his child, reaching for each other as a train pulls away. Some townspeople opposed it. They said, "It'll stir up the past. Let it be." The statue was never built. But the sketch went viral. And someone etched the design into the canyon wall. Quietly. At night. Now hikers stop there. Some leave flowers. 2019. Albuquerque, New Mexico. A construction worker found a sealed envelope inside an abandoned rail station wall. Inside, a faded black and white photo of a man in overalls. A letter dated July 10, 1917. Addressed, "To my Maria, in case I do not return. If they take me, know that I never stopped loving you. I will find a way back to you. I swear it." But he never did. His name was Domingo Rivera. He was never seen again. The letter now rests in the Bisbee Mining Museum. Under glass. Lit in soft yellow light. Every July 12th, a reenactment train now runs through Bisbee. Not to take men away, but to bring their stories home. Passengers sit in silence. Audio plays from hidden speakers. They called us traitors. But we just wanted safety. We had families. We were Bisbee. And we are still here. Children ride alongside their grandparents. Some wipe tears. Others hold hands tighter. To this day, many school history books skip over the Bisbee Deportation. No mention. No pictures. No name. But survivors' descendants keep pushing. Each year, more schools added to the curriculum. Each year, fewer people say, "I've never heard of that." One teenager wrote in her essay. They thought they erased them. But we're still writing their names. Why weren't the mine bosses arrested? Why didn't the U.S. government intervene? Why were newspapers silenced for so long? There are theories. Some say Washington feared a labor uprising. Others say it was racism. Some claim secret deals protected Phelps Dodge. No clear answer. Only whispers. And unanswered cries still echo in the canyons. The deported men never saw justice. But their legacy? It lived on. In labor laws changed years later. In unions rebuilt on their memory. In documentaries, school projects, and music. And most importantly, in the people who still remember. Present day. Bisbee, Arizona. A small plaque stands now on a brick wall downtown. It doesn't say much. Just, "In memory of those who were taken. You were not forgotten. You never will be." People pass it every day. Some stop. Some don't. But on certain nights, when the wind moves just right, you can almost hear the train. Have you heard this story before? What do you think truly happened that night? And why was no one held responsible? If you're drawn to real stories that stay with you, subscribe now to @Unbelievable True Story. Because every week, we reveal the darkest truths hidden in plain sight. Watch the next video on your screen, or dive into our playlist of forgotten crimes. The next story might be even more unbelievable.